shaky start for Chase, but rebounded well. What did you see from him tonight?
Yeah, it was an odd first inning in general, but it showed a lot of guts, to pitch the way that he did. And then it kind of got to the point where he no longer looked like he was competing his way out of not pitching as well as he could, but then it looked like he got in a groove about as good as anybody that we've had this year. Although Halvey would have something to say about that with the way he threw too. But an awkward first inning, he, may have been mentioned to you guys, but we had some miscommunication on what was going to be used, what wasn't going to be used as far as signals and things like that. So that's why you saw some awkward plays, but I'll recycle my answer to John. The other thing is you got the first inning against a team that's fired up to come in here and compete, and the top of the order is pretty dang good. They just had two huge wins, one against LSU, one against in-state rival Rice. So like anything, it's never one answer. It's usually a combination of things. But I think without stepping on anyone's toes, although ultimately it's kind of a coaching thing, a little bit of a miscommunication on what was being relayed sign-wise.
What'd you think about Dickey behind the plate for a full, or almost full 9 innings?
Yeah, he did well. I think at times he can try and do too much, back there, whereas he's turned himself into a good athlete if he just recognizes that. He's worked really hard in this particular area here in the cages, but also out on the field to become a true catcher, and I think he is. We just felt like we were utilizing him in the best way possible for the team. But tonight we thought the best spot for him was behind the plate, and when you're catching two guys that are going to pitch in the big leagues, I think he did pretty well.
What was the approach tonight going against Detmer, one of the toughest guys in the league, that worked so well for you guys early on?
I think a lot of it is sometimes circumstantial. Like he might be asked the question to flip it, like, why did you not have as much success in the first inning as you normally do? Because that's a guy that led them to Omaha last year, and he's been their staff ace for quite some time. It's always, again, a combination of things, and I think a lot of it had to do with good vibes in our dugout and locker room from a team win Tuesday. I mean, it was a really unique kind of lineup, and things that went on Tuesday were really good. And then you also kind of got that maybe extra determination sprinkled in from last weekend. And then just the tremendous feeling that I know I felt being back here. And you better be tough enough to go play on the road. But again, just being back here and seeing our fans, the first SEC crowd that we had here, was something additional too that I think our guys had. So there's some strategy and scouting report stuff mixed in there. But I think for the most part, it was kind of that everything under the word vibe.
Obviously struggled last weekend at the plate, but then come out tonight and scored 5 in the first inning. How encouraging was that to see?
It was great to see. I mean, in particular, you're picking up your pitcher who, didn't have that great of a first inning. And then two, KT, hard to fault a guy that makes an aggressive defensive mistake, sells out for that ball. Maybe they don't score in that inning if he just keeps it in front and has a single. So that's what it's all about if you want to be a good team, is picking each other up and also being consistent every day. And I think last week, for whatever reason, we weren't at our best. We're playing a team that is, playing really well, at least from what I know of their team, and, it didn't look good from our end, or if you're a Vol fan.
In terms of the approach at the plate after being down early, would you see tonight that was maybe a little different, that led to some success?
Yeah, I think in general, you always get a competitive bat out of SEMO, but the guys that are in front of him and behind him, you got Maui just getting more comfortable with accumulating at-bats, and KT is kind of in that category as well. And then Blake Burke just didn't look himself last weekend. Again, maybe it's Missouri's pitchers, maybe it's the weather, maybe he did look himself and I'm just looking for answers. But I think being sick for a couple of days made him, got him out of rhythm a little bit. And, you saw what he did tonight. He's pretty special when it's going good for him.
Overall, what did you think of the defense? A couple nice catches from both Tiers and Inslee. And what happened with Tiers there towards the end?
Yeah, he hits that ball off the pitcher's foot and really tried to leg that thing out, and I think he was a little sore with his hamstring, and we were looking to put Book in the game anyway. But we'll check on him, see what's up with that. But he's been taking as good a swings as anybody, and a lot of it's just the work ethic piece. He's had the strength, but finding that consistency is kind of a deal where it takes two to tango. We need to give him opportunities so he can stack up some reps, but also he's worked really hard at his craft to kind of be more consistent. But yeah, those guys in the outfield, especially in the spring in college baseball, it doesn't matter what field you play on, wind is an issue. So just catch it. It doesn't have to look pretty, Doesn't have to look like you're Mike Trout. Just catch the dang thing. And we had a couple guys grind out some plays, a couple where they're near the wall, and our guys were fearless. So that's an encouraging sign.
Blakeburg kind of breaking out of the slump tonight, hitting that long home run. How good was that to see?
It was freakish to see, to be honest with you, because sometimes that track thing, it's cool to put up there and the fans can see it. I don't know if they put it on the board, but someone told me 4 whatever. I'm not buying it. That thing's sometimes accurate, sometimes not. And no disrespect to anybody, but that's about as far as you can hit it. Actually, again, you say it takes 2 to tango. You got a guy that's got good zip behind the ball, and he just ran into it perfectly, and it looked like it had a jetpack on it. So, you only get 1 run for it. It's not a slam dunk contest, but at the same time, it was pretty cool to see. Him take his best swing because it's a gorgeous swing, but an even better feeling for him to go home. Because these kids, they listen to what you guys say too much, and they read stuff, and they want to feel good. And so dang well getting in his car, he feels better about it. Hadn't been too long since he'd hit a homer, or that feeling of really getting behind the baseball like he did tonight, I think is going to breed more confidence, and he's already a confident kid.
Was there any sense of urgency after getting swept last week, leading into, trying to get that first SEC win? And if so, tonight, getting that first taste of conference play, do you think that kind of washed it away?
I'm itching my head because it itches, but also you got a question there where I think you got me. The answer is no, and now that you say it, that might not be a good answer. Maybe you need to, but I think really, to be honest with you, it was why we didn't meet after the game Sunday was we had talked enough. Everybody saw what happened on the field. Get back here and regroup, which at this age means going to class, getting some sleep, get your stuff unpacked, get to work, whatever you feel is necessary on an off day. And then Tuesday we needed a good effort and a team win, and we did that. And I think the guys Wednesday and Thursday kind of stacked on top of that. Again, good vibe or just some good work that was put in with some intent. And so I don't think we ever got to that point, but it's a fair argument that maybe we should have, And again, it's one of those things, you press the right buttons when you win, and if you don't, then you feel like a dummy. But they got good players, we got good players. Unfortunately tonight, we were able to win, and I think an X factor is being in our place.
I was going to ask you about your history with Schloss. Earlier this week, he cited your contributions to the program when y'all were together at TCU. What impact has he had on your career?
Well, the biggest thing about being at TCU was the guy I spent the most time with as a player was Josh Elander. And so that's kind of where that relationship stemmed from. And, he didn't have a lot of experience as a coach when we hired him. But I was like, you get experience by doing stuff. And he was always doing stuff. He was one of our hardest workers. And then the other thing, we're doing scouting reports. It's kind of funny about that whole thing is signed Boomer White to TCU. So he played for Coach Lossnagel at TCU and then is now at A&M and is their broadcast guy, their color analyst, and actually does a good job of it. But he was SEC Player of the Year, had to play against him. So, it's not quite the big leagues where it's a good old boys club where you get on first base and you might as well make friends with a guy because he could be your teammate the next day. But yeah, you run into guys in college baseball.
What did you see from Seth Halverson after coming in relief for Dove?
I think he had a little bit extra to him tonight, and part of that is just the natural progression. He's still coming back. Now, if he hears me say that, he's going to want to punch me, but he's still kind of coming back. Building up pitch count, building up innings, building up repetitions, getting comfortable out there, especially because he's used to being a starter, so he's taking the ball whenever we get it to him. But having said that, there was also a little extra just in general. He kind of went for the kill there, which is what you have to do if you have the lead, and that thing was coming out about as good as it can come out. And it's pretty exciting. If he's there now, Joyce and he are the two guys we keep talking about as coaches. If we like where they're at now, how excited are we going to be in May? And I don't think he's going to look like a completely different person, but those two guys just keep making steady progress on top of, what is already good stuff.
Thanks, everybody.